All right, everybody. So Chaos is coming. We're all really excited for it. It's time to compare the cards, talk about some of the combos that are going to be happening and not happening in the near future in the two different formats, give you a breakdown of all the cards. I'm going to be doing a series. This is the first one covering dragons and neutrals, and then we're going to go through each of the teams. My plan is to go to death, life, earth, water, and fire. But let's get into this because there's a lot to talk about, and I'm trying to do these videos as quick as possible. First to know, say goodbye to me for now because I'm going to be blocking part of the screen. So I'm going to take myself off, and then we're going to go ahead and get into talking about this. So there's only 5 legendary cards coming out for the dragons. They're all very powerful. They're all very good in certain aspects. And we have the new king of the mana cost cards coming out in the Chaos Dragon. Now, this is the first card that they went ahead and increased his mana cost. I think he was 12, now he's 14. Because the Scattershot Blast combo is just kind of... It was too OP'd to be having in the board in kind of those medium matches from the playtesting that they were doing. We'll see if they change this card anymore. But Scattershot is the new ability, if you're not aware, that makes makes a monster target just a random opponent. So it's not a sniper. It's not a attack the lowest opportunity type monster. It could just hit anywhere on the board. But with a magic damage and 2 summoners that are currently in the set that can give +1 magic. Now, given most of you don't have an Archmage Arius, but few of you might have a Dewey Dragon Scale. So Dewey Dragon Scale and this Chaos Dragon means that he's going to be doing 5 damage with a splash of 3. That is powerful. I know that combo will be out there because when you can hit a random target for 5 and do splash damage of 3 to both of the monsters next to it, if it's in the back row, then you could kill some random back row creatures that are kind of hiding. You could just really just hurt them a lot. He'll be a good combination with the opportunity monsters that the dragons have because they've already got a few of those. If I take them off the summoners, they have Dragon Jumper. He's the main one. But they also have this 2-cost Fiendish Harpy, which is pretty ridiculous. And then they're dragon, so they can combo with any other team. The water team has a good opportunity monster, dragon team has one, and fire has the best one that's only 3 cost. So you can see him on the board with the 3 cost one from fire, the 2 cost one here. That's only 14, 17, 19 mana. So that's only maybe a 25 mana match. You could have those people on the board with something like this guy in the front or somebody else kind of small. So that gets kind of crazy. It's just something to think about there. So at 14 mana though, maybe he's got to push up into those 30 mana. We don't know. Obviously, Scattershot is going to make some ridiculously lucky shots that are just devastating to the other team, and then they're going to have stupid shots where he hits somebody and they only have one person next to them instead of 2, so the splash isn't as bad, and he The other thing, though, that he has that is sneaky good for the Dragon team is Blind. So there are some other cards out there that you can get Blind, but the Dragon team has the ability to go very fast, to get faster, to slow down their opponents, have True Strike if they use Bizzing Kitty in those really high mana matches, but to have a Blind on the board if the other person isn't playing a Bizzing Kitty is pretty cool. They do have, I believe, one other way to get Blind. Or am I wrong? Yeah, right here. With the Gorax Mage, so it's not like they didn't have it before, but now in the higher mana matches, a 6 cost was kind of not worth playing. Now you can play this one, and you can still throw that effect out onto the board if somebody doesn't use a Bizzing Kitty to kind of counter that. Other than that, it's a medium speed card with flying, so it's going to dodge some attacks. It has armor and a good amount of health, so it's not going to die very quick no matter where you put it. Interesting, with 12 HP, if you put it in front of some healers, it's actually going to get a decent heal. So it can be probably a pretty decent tank. Certainly a secondary tank or a third tank that ends up hitting the front row. So, overall, this card is just pretty crazy. Once he's in the front row, though, that Scattered Shot ability goes away, but he's still blasting for 4 magic damage. So this card is definitely powerful. If you want to compete in upper mana matches, you're going to want this card on your team. And if you have him on your team and leveled, you're going to do pretty well in those big mana matches if you can use him for sure. So I'm going to get a quick drink and then we'll talk about the Desert Dragon. Okay, Desert Dragon is a very, very interesting card. He's 7 mana and does 6 damage. That's pretty wild. And he has Giant Killer. So if he's hitting this Chaos Dragon, he's doing 12. If he's hitting Kron, he's doing 12. The Untamed set, every team has a legendary card that costs 10. There's the Diamond Dragon here on the Dragon team. There's a Kron. There's the High Priestess. There's the Magic guy. I forget his name. And there's Magmor on fire, right? So you put him in front of Magmar, you speed him up a little bit, and he's going to hit him for 12 if nobody gave him armor or anything like that. I actually think the slower speed, too, is a little detrimental, but with all the different ways for them to speed up their team, this is a good combo with the Naga Assassin, good combo with Bizzing Kitty. Just with those 2 cards, he'd be a 5-speed character who can't miss, who does 6 damage. He also has a Retaliate and a Trample, which means there's a good chance he could, in the right situation, he will blow up a 10-cost guy and then trample his way to the next one. It'd also be a funny card to maybe try out in the Infinite Trample games that we get every once in a while. I do think that if you already have a Robo Dragon who is at an 11 cost card, you could maybe not worry about getting a Desert Dragon if you're a bit more on a budget. He should be a little bit cheaper, though, because I have some people are going to think a 7-cost card with only 7 HP, a 3 armor, he's slow, there's fast mages in this game, the mages are just going to blow him away. And they're right to an aspect. He's going to need silences behind him. You're going to need to protect him from magic some way or another, or you're going to need to hope that you're playing him in a format where you're just not going to see very much magic. There are formats where he will be great. Right here, and Giant Killer, obviously, it's the other one of the other new abilities. It's double damage to cards that cost 10. It's kind of interesting. There's not a lot of cards that cost 10 in Chaos Legion. This is actually a counter to some of the big 10-cost cards in Untamed, and previous cards like the Kraken and the obviously the Robo Dragon is 11, and then these 10-cost legendaries. We'll go over all of those in the different videos to kind of show you the different cards that these are obvious counters to, because they're going to hit very, very hard. We also we have Zul, what is that, ZYX Zul? I'm sorry, I'm not going to pronounce some of these weird names correctly. I never have. Now, he is a very interesting card. One of the things I don't know, so somebody tell me in the comments of this video so I'll know for the next ones, or hopefully know pretty soon. Recharge makes them attack every other turn, and they hit for triple damage. I'm guessing that they won't attack their first turn, and they'll attack on their second. If I'm wrong about that, let me know. If they attack first and third, then this card is extremely good. If it attacks 2 and 4, it's still good. So you've got a 3 range cost card on a team that will still be able to use Selena. Not when it goes into modern format, but when you use Selena Sky with him, he can do 4. So you're talking 4 times 3 is 12 damage on a ranged attack to the front row. Then you add on their Death Blow. So if you end up with one card on the board like a Llama Kron or a Llama anything that you think is going to just, rock somebody, you're talking about without a buff an 18 damage hit, with a buff a 24 damage hit. So Lamacron, you meet your match possibly. One of the things he'll have to, obviously, Lamacron would mean that this guy is an 8 cost, that 17 mana match. You could definitely put him on the board with a couple smaller cards in front of him to help speed him up and let him get those hits off. He also has close range, though, so he can end up in the front row as kind of a counter to anybody trying to play one of those one card cards. Now, the one thing about the Dragon team, they don't have a lot of low cost summoners. It's nice here to get a 4. Dewey's a 5. If we are looking at just the summoners for the Dragons, you do have Camellia. She's a 3, so that's really good. You also have this one that doesn't do anything, that's a 3. And Selena, who's a 3. Now, the one that are going away in modern format are these ones, and the Archmage and Prince Julian. And Nebby, but Nebby really got nerfed by the new one. We'll talk about him in just a minute. But, really the best play here, you talk about an 11 mana play for these two here. So that's going to be a counter to any Llama combo at all. Because Llama Pellicor's 14, Llama Golem is 13, right? So you're talking about, this is only 11, so you can put those 2 on the board. And on a 13 mana match, you have 2 left, so you could take that 2 mana and throw something in front of them. And you can throw a chicken on the board, and there's new 0-cost legendaries in this set, so you can put a bunch of people in front of him, and then when he gets to the front row, he still attack anyways. So it's a very good card. Obviously, you'll play it with Selena right now. That's an obvious play. But Selena, when it goes away in modern format, you would have to look for different ways to use that card, and you wouldn't get it up to those big damage, unfortunately. Playing with Bizzing Kitty isn't a bad move either in higher mana matches, though, because somebody who only attacks every other turn only has 3 speed normally. I don't know. If he misses, you're just going to be devastated, right? All right, let's go ahead and get on to the Void Dragon. I got to go a little bit quicker here if I'm going to go over all these cards. So Void Dragon is a very interesting card. He's a flying tank with dodge, phase, and void that does magic damage. That is... I don't really know. I don't know where he fits. Maybe lower mana matches where you still want to run dragons but don't want to use a tank from a different team. He does seem like maybe a solid second position card to counter snipers because there's a good chance he'll dodge any kind of attack because he's flying. Snipers don't tend to be super fast. There's a couple on green that are quick, but some of the other snipers are slow, and he can dodge magic and he can dodge the other things. But the one thing I would say about that, your first sniper position, you want to make him not be the second monster on the board, so he would sit behind like a reach monster because his HP is too low to run into blast damage. So like a Jotun would just chew him up with blast damage hitting him, and one of the things that's kind of annoying is you can't dodge blast damage. So that's something to remember with the Void Dragon. We'll go over the Summoner. He's solid. -1 speed, -1 attack is a really good combo. Personally, I like summoners that buff your team more than debuff the other team, because buffing your team, you can make sure to use cards that your summoner buffs, whereas when you are debuffing the other team, you have to hope that they actually play ranged monsters. You go against a team of Magic, then you're just this sucks. But the -1 speed is nice because that will affect anybody except for the slowest monsters on the board, and so that's one of the nice things, especially because the dragons tend to be kind of medium speed here to low speed, so he's a good summoner for these dragons. You can also look at some of the other dragon cards for the new set, so he's only 3 speed. Naga is nice because she can be plugged in with this, so now you're getting a 2 speed change on the game. See, Twilight's only 4. The new Jin is only 2. The old dragons, except for Lightning, are 3. So there's lots of dragons that are not that fast. The Vigilator is actually a great card at 4 speed. So to see him, being played with this one will be kind of interesting to maybe see that as a good kind of play. Scale Doctor is a little slow. It's nice. Dragon Jumper's fast, and that's kind of nice. But see, also Gorax is kind of slow. So the team is kind of slow. So it's a good summoner to help them. The speed boost is a cool thing to get, and they are able to get it now from their summoner. Because of that, if you don't have a dragon summoner, I'd say try to get this one. Obviously, if you've already got a Selena or you've already got a Dewey for the short term before modern format's a thing, you maybe don't need this card so much. But as a legendary summoner, I don't know if it'll go up or down in price. We're all kind of up in the air on if Chaos Legion's going to sell out quick. And the truth is, if it does and cards are rare, summoners are going to be rare, legendary summoners are going to be rare, the price on these cards might only go up. I don't know for sure. The dragon summoner, I think there's a caveat to that. There might be more people that look to sell him who are the lower end kind of financial people in the game, because it would cost so much money, say, to get a Chaos Dragon or a Desert Dragon or Azul, or they just don't have, the Diamond Dragons, the Goraxes, the Vigilators, because these cards are expensive. And so they're just like, you know what, I'm going to sell him because I'd rather just work on getting the new summoners for the Earth team or the Water team, where I can kind of field a whole team a lot easier because it's in my budget. So that could maybe mean that this one doesn't go completely crazy right away. All right, so now we're going to get into the neutral cards. I'm going to try to talk about where the neutral cards might help some teams and hurt some teams, but we'll be talking about them in the later videos too. But I'm going to do a breakdown of each card today and what I think it's good, and maybe an idea of teams that they might be good on. And as I get more into each team, I might start to, re-reference a card going, this is a really good one for this team. Other ones in this set are just really good standalones that can fill in if you don't have certain cards in certain sets. So we're going to start up here with the Supply Runner. This is a 6-cost archer with 5 speed, 5 health. That also boosts himself to 6 speed and puts himself to 6 health. So it's really a 3-6-6. But it also, it has the ability to speed up your own team, and it has the ability to give everybody more HP. This is a good card, without a doubt. He's going to fit into a lot of different plays out there. Obviously, Selena teams, it makes a lot of sense. Jotun teams, he makes a lot of sense. So you can see Jotun Zaku running this guy, and now those already ridiculously 6 and 7 speed archers are now 8 speed guys, and they are kind of low HP, but now he helps that HP so that return fire maybe isn't as devastating on these cards, because that's one of the things that sometimes can be annoying if you are running Zaku. I can definitely see a lot of different teams that would use this card. I think that this will be a common that is pretty sought after. Higher mono matches, 6-cost archers are nice because it's a nice card that you can plug in onto any team that just needs another attacker. Now we're going to go ahead and go to this one. So this is Scalvio. This is a very interesting card. This card might not look that powerful, but this card is going to change the way that silver is played and gold is played. And that is because he is a new card with triage and repair, and he gets that at level 4. So only a level 4 card, which I believe would be in silver. And then when he gets up into level 6, he's still just a little bit more robust. Later on, he's going to have camouflage, which is going to be really, really cool. And if you max him out, he's going to slow. So for 3 mana, you're able to slow the other team, hide a healer who also is repairing armor. Obviously, he screams Life Team because they have the most cards with armor, but they are not the only team with armor cards. Water has that new rare that gives everybody armor. You have the Dragons have a few cards with a lot of armor. I know this would be a fun card to play with the Robo Dragon sitting up there in the front. It does kind of scream. You don't have to play him behind a tank that doesn't have taunt. So that's kind of a nice thing because he has camouflage, so snipers can't get him, sneak monsters can't get him. And even if they do attack him, he's got 5 speed. Now, the one thing about 5 speed, that hurts him a tiny bit, but this is at max level. At lower level, he might actually be more effective if he's slower. So down here at 3, and the reason why is you don't want healers necessarily to be the strongest cards. Oh, what did I do here? I went to the market somehow. Sorry, guys, I was looking at the wrong thing. Let me just fix that really quick. Oh, don't need gladiators. Because when he's at 5 speed, if he heals before the other team hits your back row, or he tries to repair before your tank's even taken a hit, well then, he's not as good until the second turn. So it might be an interesting card to maybe leave right when it gets camouflage, not worry about getting the slow, because a slow on him is kind of interesting just because his main point is to heal and repair, and if he does that too soon, it's not going to be great. It's going to be the first turn he does nothing. After that, it's not as bad because then the battle has started and he'll do his stuff every turn, but that first turn not getting in a repair could be a big deal. The Disintegrator is a very interesting card. The reason I say that is because you don't see a trample card with knockout very often and retaliate. Now, it only does 3 damage and it's 7 attack. So obviously you could throw him on a team that has a lot of stuns. You could try to create a very interesting attack where since he's slower, somebody else sets up a monster with a stun. Then he comes in, does a really big hit, tramples through, hits the next guy, then that guy hits him, then he retaliates, he hits that guy, that finishes that guy off for some reason, now he tramples again. So any card with trample can be interesting. This card kind of reminds me of Rexy a little bit, but kind of with some funner abilities for only a common card. Obviously we have to look into his stats to know for sure when he gets all of these abilities. He's not going to be as effective in the lower formats, because while Demoralize is interesting in the lower formats, like in Silver, because -1 attack can make a big difference to the other team if they're using melee monsters. But Trample, for a guy with only 2 attack, isn't that big of a deal. Once he gets to 3 attack, it's still not that big of a deal, because he's not always going to be dealing death blows with only 3 attack. But when he gets that knockout, that creates an interesting, fun little combo. Don't think that will be one of the more powerful cards. That's why it's common. But it could be a fun one to get if you don't really have a tank for a team in those higher mono magics. So we have Chaos Agent here. It's always interesting to see 1-cost cards. 1-cost cards are normally only legendary cards. Now we get a common one. He's got a dodge, a phase, and a backfire with 5 speed at 1 cost. So this is a tank theoretically for those 12 and 13 mono matches. You can put him in the second position, have him be a second tank. Think about, you go like chicken him, and then you got like a chance to have 1 cost take away a whole bunch of different hits. And if people miss him, you can do some damage back. Interesting card. 1-cost cards are always worth having on your team because they can be played really cheaply. You want that card in your deck. Same thing here. This 2-cost archer that can do 3 damage at max level is very, very strong. This kind of replaces the Silver Shield archer, who's 3-cost, who can deal, I think, 4 at max level. So now you have a 2-cost who can deal 3 at max level. Archer, this screams like giving Jotun just 1 more low-cost archer. That is going to be kind of ridiculous when you talk about the fact that he already has some 2-cost archers, and now you throw this one into the game mix. That's going to be wild. The Zenith Monk, he's kind of funny because he's the Haunted Spirit. Just a 4-cost one, so it does a little less damage, has a little less health, maybe, but he's a self-heal. With Void and Magic Reflect. The big thing about him, though, unlike the Haunted Spirit, who costs 5, he costs 4. That means this card, these next 2 cards, along with Blight, they are going to change Little League a lot, because now we have neutral 4-cost cards that can be thrown onto any team. Some of the teams that don't have the best 4-cost tank, well, now they got a self-healing Voided Magic Reflect tank. Well, all right, that's pretty awesome. Then you go over here to the Veterinary Smellsmith. Now you play him with this card, and when he reflects the magic damage, it's amplified, so it's going to do even more. Then this is also a mage that if it blows himself up, will deal an additional 1 damage to the other team, and Dispel will take away any kind of speed buffs or anything that the other guys have on the other side. So this is another solid mage for 4 cost. Very usable, especially with Amplify. We don't have a lot of usable cards with Amplify. Currently one of the only ones is a guy with no attack. So now you have an attacking card that you can actually put onto a team behind somebody who has a Magic Reflect, behind somebody who has a Thorns. And you can actually just throw that onto any team. So any Magic Reflect or any Thorns, and you can make those things deal more damage. So that's pretty cool. He also will work with the Earth Summoner with the Thorns. Sorry, the name's not in my mind right now. Okay, so now we'll go over the last 4 neutral cards, and then we'll have some final thoughts on kind of some other stuff, but let's go ahead and get into it. So the Mage of Chaos, this is a very, very interesting card, both for the Earth team going forward, because their new summoner gives +1 magic, and for the Water team and for the Dragon teams, +1 magic summoners. This guy has Oppress and 4 mana, so this is an anti-cube, anti-failed summoner, anti-fail any of the no attack monsters that are on the board. Those are the 2 that come to mind right away. I might be forget. Oh, the albino, right? The big albino. I think he's down here. Yeah, the Almo Cabino. So for him, and it will counter Lord Lord A2. So get rid of this card. And the Onyx Sentinel. So he's a counter to all of these cards out there, the big tanks that people throw up in the front who have no attack, and they're just going to put a bunch of healers behind them. Well, now you're going to be dealing 8 magic damage when you hit them. I admit the ones with Void, it's not as impressive because it's only going to be dealing 4 magic damage to them, but still, it's nice to be able to get a nice solid 4 hit on this guy or on this one because their HP is pretty low. 6 cost for 4 magic is really solid. The fact that he only has Oppress means that he won't be that good. But if you play on a lot of teams where he does 5 magic damage, I can just see this card being one that you could get that it could replace some of the other magic cards that cost a lot more. I mean, he's epic, so he's going to be expensive, and he's neutral. Actually, so he might be really expensive. We'll have to see if others agree with me that just having a nice 6-cost 4 magic card that you can plug into any team is really, really worth having in your repertoire. I would say the same thing about Gem Meteor. Though this one is absolutely amazing. He kind of reminds me of the Air Spirit, who could get up to this 4/5 for the life team, but now it's a neutral card. And now they added in Blast, which is amazing, and he has the Scattershot Blast combo. So this is definitely a combo that you can put on the board with the dragon, the Chaos Dragon, and now you got 2 blasting Scattershot monsters working together, and they can probably be played together because that's 19 mana between the two. So it's like in a 40 or 50 mana match or anything higher than that, they can definitely both be on the board because that uses up about 20 mana. Now we got Dr. Blight. Dr. Blight's going to be an interesting one. It's kind of cool because he's got the 2 red dots. You only are getting him for sure if you took part in the pre-order, or if you come by off of someone like me who got it in the pre-order and will have a few extra. Be interesting to see what his price demands. Now, being a 4-cost card, he's not going to be some devastating take over the game card, except for maybe in Little League. And even in Little League, he might not be that, but he does join these neutral cards along with these ones. And even like this one here of like just changing Little League so much, so many little cost monsters. Also, just great plugins to any team in that like 24, 25, 30 mana area where you're just like, ooh, I don't really have anybody great at that 4 mana slot, or I have 8 mana left. Do I use an 8 guy or this 1/4, but I don't have anybody to go good with that 4? Well, now I do. I got a Dr. Blight. I got a Venturi. Maybe if it's different, I plug in, the Scalvio. This is going to be ridiculous. Triage. There's some teams that don't even have triage, really. I mean, this is just going to be so cool. I want that card for sure. But Dr. Blight, he's very interesting. So he's slow. Some people might not like that, but a mage with low health that does 2 and only has 3, being slow doesn't bug me. Also because he has Scavenge, Poison, he slows the other team. He has Weaken, he weakens the other team. And he has Affliction. I don't want him attacking, though, early on and making himself a target, say, for an opportunity monster or something like that, because I don't want Dr. Blight to just die. He's a card with a lot of status effects that can be added to any team. The Death team used to be the masters of debuffing the other team. Now you have a card that has Affliction, Slow, Weaken, and can poison people, and then a mage who can sit, probably not the last position, but one of your last positions, and be scavenging extra health. So by the time he gets to the front row, he can be a tank mage sitting there in the front row with maybe like 7-8 life, and that could be the difference in you winning the game, especially in a Little League match where maybe both teams is playing all these little monsters that are going to die really quickly, and his life is going to get up there into the 10 or 12 range by the time he hits that front row. And next, we'll talk about the Legionnaire. He is just a beast of a tank, but he doesn't maybe quite live up to the other really, really big tanks like the Robo Dragon. Who else is up here who's like a high tank? I guess, besides the Robo Dragon, if you don't have a Robo Dragon, well, you can get this guy. And he does a little bit less damage. He's a little bit slower. He has more armor, a little less life. And he's got a different flavor. So instead of Void, he has Void armor. So if they don't have Shatter on the other team, he pretty much has double. This is just more HP. He has that Giant Killer mode. So this is a very interesting card because I feel like Giant Killer will be very, very cool for us in the kind of formats where we boss modes. It'll be really cool in brawls because some of those gladiator cards are kind of ridiculous, so he can help you kill those. And it will be just a fun card to play with when he gets to use this ability. Darn, I tried to finish up without that last cost. Demoralize is very interesting because the fact that you can play him maybe in some of those high mana matches where melee monsters can attack from everywhere, or it's melee only, or it's super sneak, and he has a demoralize and he's a neutral card, that gets kind of interesting because there's some other cards like the Harklaw that has demoralize, and you could be running that on the Death team. So you could be running Zintar and melee only with Harklaw and this guy, and now you're talking about like a triple demoralize when only melee monsters are on the board, and that's pretty interesting. I think Fire also has one that demoralizes, so you could throw them on the Fire team, do a double demoralize with them. So it's a very, very interesting skill. And then he has the Death Blow. So he will do double damage if it's the last monster on the board. This gets kind of interesting when you talk about Giant Killer and Death Blow. So if he ended up going against any llama monster that cost 10 or more, like Llama Kron, he would end up hitting them for 3. If this 3 isn't buffed, it would double because of Giant Killer, and it would double again to 12 damage because of Death Blow. So any card that can hit for 12, that's pretty amazing. If you can up his attack to 4 or play him on a team that has 2 cards that can buff his attack to 15, now 15 doubles to 10, doubles again to 20, though you might not see that so much because they'd have to be against a 10 cost monster that's the last monster, and late in the game, even if he had other cards buffing his attack on the team, those cards might have died. But still, every once you could see this guy potentially hit somebody for 21 time. You could see him, more realistically hit for 12 or 15 or 16 if it was 4. So that's a really cool thing. So that goes over all the neutral cards. I've talked a little bit about where they belong with the teams, a little bit where they are. I think you really get a couple neutral tanks that you can use on your team, and they can fill in anywhere you're missing tanks. You get 3 really good mages. You get 3 really good archers. You also get a Little League tank that is going to be possibly one of the better Little League tanks in the game. I can't think of any other Little League tanks that have self-heal and void. And then also, I'll just go ahead and bounce that magic back at them, which is pretty ridiculous because there's some pretty good mages in the 4-cost range. As you can see, here's 2 new ones coming into the game. It's almost like he was built to counter these 2. That's kind of funny. And then, you've also got the triage and any team, which is going to be really, really cool. It's good for 3 cost. You can just pop him in all over the place. With camouflage, he'll be hiding. The speed and the slow thing, like I said, I have a little bit of an issue with that. And then we have the dragons. These dragons are going to be strong. They are going to mix in with the other team. They just when you look who they're replacing, we'll talk about that really quick. We'll get rid of the neutral cards really quick. We'll just talk about the dragons really quickly. So these guys are replacing these guys here, right? So you had the lightning dragon, you had the chromatic dragon, and you had the gold dragon. I have to go into the cards. I don't have these maxed out. Sorry, I'm just not someone who did. So to give you an idea, so you had the gold dragon before who had a self-heal, blast for 4 damage, and bounce magic back. So this was a real good card to have as a front row tank or a second position one. He's kind of replaced now maybe by the void dragon a little bit, right? But definitely you can go to lightning dragon, and I gotta scroll back down. Actually, I do have a maxed out lightning dragon, but it's not showing it for some reason, but whatever. We'll go to stats. I'll figure that out later. But so he has blast, which is chromatic dragon. He does only 3, but it's ranged. Now it's magic. He had piercing and stun. He gets instead blind and scattershot. So you can see these cards are somewhat similar, but they change a lot. He's maybe closer to this one, but 1 more mana here gets you more HP. Then you make him slower. See, so this one's really fast. This one's kind of slow, but that's why he gets more abilities. Or maybe more abilities that you might think are better. This recharge is kind of crazy, the triple damage. And then the last dragon that gets replaced here is the chromatic dragon. We look at him at max level, and he was basically, the idea behind him was being a tank, but without any armor, without void. Magic really tore him apart. He wasn't very fast on his own. So even though he had Thorn's piercing and he could get a little bit faster when he got enraged, he just didn't make enough. Magic was his bane. There's not really a replacement for him exactly. I guess you could compare him to the Desert Dragon because they both cost 7, but this one does more damage. It still takes 10 damage to kill if you look at this, but this one has, I like these abilities better. I like Trample with piercing when you do 10, with Retaliate, and then sometimes when you're dealing 6, and then sometimes you're going to deal 12, and you're going to Trample, and you're going to pierce that 12. So you can go right through. I mean, you would just destroy a little bit of armor and just rip into a guy. This one had piercing, but he only did 5. He had no way to. He could get really high later on in the game, but it's after he had to get hit. I don't know. You have to tell me, what do you think? Chromatic Dragon or Desert Dragon? Which one would you rather play? Both kind of slow. Both hit pretty hard. Both have not the great HP for the 7-cost games, because if you're using a 7-cost card, then there could be some powerful mages on the other side of the board, and they can die to magic very quickly, maybe even before they attack. Chromatic Dragon probably counters that a little bit more. All right, everybody, thank you for tuning in. I hope that you had a good time and you had a chance to get an idea of where we're going with the dragons and the neutral cards, and I'll be back soon with another video. Thanks, bye.